spotlight and change your name.
I hear the fan. Thank you. I still hear the fan. Thank you.
And we're live.
Namaste from Crestone, Colorado to the world. Om Shanti, as we come together at this influential time on the planet for humanity, where we're being asked to either move towards realization and consciousness for ourselves and our relationship to the planet and humanity, or we move towards suffering, ignorance, and self-destruction. Welcome everyone, good morning to day 3 of the Earthstock Eco-Spiritual Summit. I'm broadcasting from Crestone, Colorado, from the Dharma Ocean Buddhist Center, which was the seat of teaching for a world-renowned teacher, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, the Lama. And even though he has left this world in his physical form, his essence, his teachings, his consciousness is here. And the deities, the protectors, all of the various dakinis are also here with us in this space. It's with great honor today that we have the opportunity with our first presenter of the day, a day that's focused on peace and justice, a day that's focused on the idea of our spiritual sovereignty and responsibility to our spiritual journey into humanity. A day where we're looking at new, innovative ways of being in the world to help bring the healing and the consciousness and the understanding so that we can spiritually evolve to inherit our divine birthright, to become our fullest actualized embodied potential at this time on the planet, on Mother Earth. So with that, I'd like to introduce our presenter, our spiritual teacher, a bringer of Amrita and divine essence to the samsara and to the suffering of the human condition at this time. It's with great honor that I introduce Sri Madhusudan Sai. So welcome.
We're so honored. We're very honored to have you with us today. Thank you.
Namaste to everyone from India, near Bangalore. That's where we are. And it's a privilege, it's an honor to be a part of this summit, the Earthstock Summit, and to be amidst people who feel for the future of humanity, for the future of the entire creation. And they pray, they work, They strive for a better tomorrow and better today for every one of us. I'm very, very honored, I must say, to be here today and to talk to you about what India thinks about the future of humanity, of the future of Earth, the future of us all as one world family. Let me take you back to the ancient times in India when Upanishads were written. The Upanishads are the most ancient spiritual texts where they talk about the greater philosophy of Indian culture and spirituality. And the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that the whole world is one family, is the uppermost when it comes to the thought about the collective future of us all. The Upanishad's name is Maha Upanishad, and the verse in Sanskrit, one of the most ancient languages, goes Ayam nijaha paro vetti gadana laghu chetasam udara charitanam tu vasudhaiva kutumbakam. To think that some people are ours and some people are others is the way of narrow-minded people. For the broad-minded ones, the whole world is one family. Vasudha eva kutumbakam. Vasudha means the entire earth. Eva indeed is kutumbakam, one family. So when we talk about peace and justice, it's only possible when we think of everyone as our own. Sometimes our finger may hurt our eyes inadvertently, but we do not punish our finger because it has hurt our eyes. Or sometimes while eating or talking, we bite our own tongue, but we don't punish the teeth for biting our tongue, because the feeling that everything, the tongue, the teeth, the finger and the eye, everything belongs to us. This understanding of interconnectedness, oneness, allows us to live and forgive. This idea of forgiveness, acceptance, and not mere tolerance comes from this idea that we are all connected as one family. One earth is our home and one humanity is our family. So I wanted to speak about how these great Indian ancient ideas are so relevant in today's times. In fact, the most relevant in today's times, when the world is getting divided through narrow ideologies of I and mine, us versus them. This is the time when we have to remind ourselves of the greater truths that our ancestors have left behind for us to learn from and follow, practice, and thereby make everyone's lives better. When I say family, it is not just about humans. The birds, the trees, the rivers, the mountains, the sky, the earth, everything and everyone is a part of us. And that idea of one consciousness, one interconnectedness of all existence is the supreme central idea of Indian culture and philosophy. Ekameva advitiyam. It says there is only one without the second. So all the diversity, the differences that we see are mere external expressions of the same internal oneness. A piece of gold can be cast into a ring or a chain or a bracelet, but all of them are gold only. For the ordinary ones, it may appear as different ornaments, but for a jeweler who knows the material, the ingredient with which it is made, for him everything is gold. So also all the differences that we see all around us are mere expressions of that singular one raw material, which is consciousness, with which we are all made. Now with the development in science, especially with the resurgence of quantum field, this understanding of interconnectedness is improving even in scientific community. And they understand that, like the string theory talks about, whatever happens at one end of the universe, it affects something at the other end of the universe too, because we are all entangled. The entanglement of photons was a theory that got the Nobel Prize too in 2022. So the science is slowly approaching the truth which the spiritual masters knew by their own experience from within. How do we make this earth better for all of us to live in, for our future generations? How do we reverse this self-destruction that we have brought upon ourselves? The only solution is spirituality. And spirituality is not merely following a particular religion or a particular master, a particular text, but it is simply this idea of oneness, that belief, the absolute conviction about oneness of all existence. And of course, that requires some bit of practice, some bit of sadhana, some bit of understanding and effort. But once we start putting those efforts, we will realize the truth sooner or later. That is the only hope for humanity. For the sake of presentation, I brought in a few slides to teach in this particular materialistic society, how do we humans, at least a few of us, can reverse these trends and lead ourselves to a better future. As Michael was telling, how do we go back? But I feel that our journey is that of a river. A river's water always flows ahead, it never goes back. We only have to give it the right direction. We are flowing in the wrong direction. And if we can give it the right direction, then we'll reach our destination, which is divinity. So the idea of oneness, the idea of interconnectedness, the idea of this one universal consciousness as the singular existence alone is the ultimate solution to all the problems that exist. But for the practical reasons as to how do we practice these ideas to make our societies and lives better, I thought I would also remind you of what was written in Isha Upanishad. This is another Upanishad, very ancient text, probably thousands of years old, undated. But it says, the very first opening verse says, Isha vasyamidam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjita ma gudha kasya siddhanam. It says all that which is seen in this ever-changing world, the diversity, the difference, is all enveloped by the same divine self. And therefore, one should live a life of sacrifice before consuming. One must give first and take later. One must sacrifice first and consume later. Not just that, one must not take another man's wealth. That's a very deep thought. One would think, why should anybody take anybody else's wealth? It's illegal, it's not permitted, it's unlawful. But our Upanishads are very deep. They just don't mean that you snatch away somebody's rightful belongings because of your power or position or authority. But it simply says that anything that you do not need truly does not belong to you. It belongs to somebody else whose need is much greater than yours. Be it food, be it clothing, be it shelter, be it the resources that God has given us all, be it the wealth that we generate out of our own efforts in education and skills. Anything that is in excess, which is not needed by us, truly belongs to somebody whose need is greater than ours. That is the idea of tena tyaktena bunjita. When Mahatma Gandhi was asked by a journalist that he must tell about his philosophy in a few words, because the journalist did not have all the time in the world to hear it all, Mahatma Gandhi just said these three words from the Upanishad. Tena tyaktena bunjita. Sacrifice and consume. Only when you sacrifice, that is when you are entitled to consumption. In today's world, it's all about consumption. It's about me, myself, I. First, it's all about oneself, not about others. And that is when we tend to not think about others' welfare. We only think about ours. But our Upanishads say it's not that way. You must sacrifice first and then consume later. Not just that, you must not take anything, even if you have the capacity to earn it or use it or hoard it or consume it. If you don't need it, just don't do it. The idea of sustainability, the idea of better future lies in the idea of giving more and taking less. And with that, if you think of the whole society, you probably can divide into 4 kinds of people. And in Indian terms, in Sanskritam, we can call them in 4 ways. One is the rogi. Rogi are those who are sick people, in the sense they keep taking and taking and taking, but they don't give anything in return. They are the Rogis. The other ones are Bogis. Bogis are those who only give as much as they take. They are transactional. They do not give anything more than what they are taking from the society. They are better than the first ones who only take and do not give, but they are not the best. The third ones are Tyagis. These are people of sacrifice, as the Upanishads say. They give more than what they take from the society. And that's how they create sustainable societies. And the last ones are yogis. These are those spiritualists who are here only to give. They are not here to take anything in return. Like breathing out is the only way to breathe in. When you breathe out, you do not really give anything. You just are going by the natural laws. But unless you breathe out, you cannot breathe in. So breathing in happens only when you breathe out. Yogis are like that. They are here to give. And in the process of giving, whatever is their need, they receive it. They do not take more than their need. These are the spiritualists. In modern parlance, if I can call it in the today's philosophy, I could call them in four ways. The first ones are the capitalists, those who only take and give very little. In fact, they don't give at all. Profiteering is the only motivation. And this crony capitalism is the reason why Earth's resources are getting depleted. And these are the people who turn everything into money and more money and more money, and there is no end to the greed. That has caused much damage, whether at a larger level of big industries or as smaller business people who or individuals who are greedy. They all have caused the same damage by taking more than they want, their need is, and they give very little or sometimes not even anything. The other kinds are socialists. These are those who only give as much as they take. They believe in equality, they believe in everybody's welfare, but then they only do so much as they take. They do not do more than that. The third ones I can call it as minimalists, who take less and but they give also less. They do not give more than that, but they take less, so that is good part of it. They are people who have reduced their consumption so that they do not deplete the resources. But the most important are the fourth one. They are the spiritualists who are here only to give. They always think twice whether I really need this. And if I don't need this, if it's in excess, then I must not have it. If everybody lived with this idea of spirituality, where they thought about others before themselves, just like in a family, we all would think about somebody else, our friend, our neighbor, our brother or a sister or mother or father, whether they have eaten, and if there is sufficient food for them also. We do not eat selfishly all by ourselves. We think about the others in the house. That is the way of living in this world, is what our Upanishads say. When we think about others as our very own, then we only consume as much as we need and not as much as our greed demands. If everybody on the earth, they say, consumes like an average North American, probably the earth's resources would not be able to support more than 9 billion people. But if everybody on an average consumes like an average Indian, may not be all Indians, but at least most of them, then probably Earth's resources can support 15 billion people. The idea is that resources are always limited, but our greed has no limit. And when we keep accumulating, hoarding, unmindful of what happens to others, that's when these imbalances happen in the nature. And the repercussions of which we are feeling not only as social disturbances, but as mental health issues, climate issues, and the extinction of species, various other species who also have the same rightful ownership of this home called this planet Earth. But they are denied that because human species or human race is powerful and mightier. But that is when natural calamities happen, because Mother Nature is not happy with us. It needs to strike the balance, and therefore there is calamity, there are earthquakes, there are so many other natural disasters which are disturbing the common societies. But these are all created by our own wrongdoing. So our Upanishads tell, do not overdo, do not take more than what you need. And that is the only solution to a better future, even a better present for all of us, all species, including the environment, including the nature. Everything would survive and thrive if only everybody consumed a little less. And that is the idea of Upanishads. They say, just because you have the wealth, or you have the knowledge, or you have the ability, or whatever power at your disposal to have more than what you need, please do not misuse it, do not abuse it by taking more than your requirement. Think of others who are also there in the line. The idea of this sustainability comes from this spiritual idea of oneness. And unless we believe in this oneness as a spiritual idea, all social ideas are going to collapse sooner or later. Social justice is not possible without spiritual understanding. So this is the idea of our Indian spirituality and sustainability and earth, better planet for all. We all know about reduce, which is called Dhamma in India, which is to self-control, self-restraint. Reuse, Dana, what you do not need, give it to somebody and they can use it. Do not waste it, do not throw it away. Somebody may be able to use it better. You also can use things which are already used if there is a possibility. Recycle, we all know about the circular economy we talk about, but that is daya, compassion for the planet, compassion for all other creatures. Throwing unprocessed plastics and other waste into the seas or dumping it in earth, it kills the entire ecosystem. And that is compassion that you must show without causing damage to others. And the most important thing is tyaga, refuse. So while we have the 3 R's of reduce, reuse and recycle, the Indian culture talks about the most important 4th R, which is to refuse taking more than what you really need. Take only so much as you need and cut down your greed and live as per your need. And today, sustainability economics talk about a voluntary minimalism or voluntary simplicity, where the people are giving up certain things which they don't really need. And so also we talk about collective consumption or collaborative consumption, where we share resources with each other, be it a car when we carpool, or be it a home where we live as joint families, we need less resources, or even other common places where we can utilize common resources so that we cause less damage to others. And that way every human will be able to access the basic necessities of life, if only few of them, a few of us who have more than what we require, are willing to let go voluntarily, happily. And the studies show that it is also very good for one's mental betterment, because when you give, you really feel fulfilled. When you give, you feel complete, and the happiness and joy that you receive from giving is far superior than the happiness or joy that you receive from getting. So giving is living. And to me, a better future, a better earth, better planet for all of us is the idea of giving more than receiving. And by giving, we live, and we live to give. And that is how we must live, like we breathe in and breathe out every moment, so also we must give and receive every moment. If we only follow these basic ideas of self-restraint, control over desires, more charity in our thoughts, in our words, in our actions, and compassion for all creatures, and above all, the idea of sacrifice, that we do not want anything that we don't really need. Somebody else can use it better. I think we are going to make our lives better, lives of everyone better, and the future will be better. But this has to begin with you and me, with us here. And as we keep working on this, I'm sure the trends will change. The next generation is very aware, very intelligent, very curious also. And they believe in goodness. They may not believe in the old school religion or the old methods of spirituality, but they do believe in a better future for all of us, more equality, more justice. So if we want to bring peace and justice to the world, we must believe in this idea of oneness. We must believe that everybody has equal rights, and we must ensure that once we are done with our need, we should not take more than that. Anything left behind will be useful for the others who have lesser means to avail the same basic rights, basic necessities of life. That way we'll cause less damage to the planet, less damage to the creatures, society, and to ourselves, more importantly, because we live in a spiritual way. So these are my 2 cents of advice, or call it thoughts, based on the Indian context of how one can make our lives better and sustainable. This is how we think of changing the world, when everyone gives more than what one takes, and that is the process by which we will create better societies and future for all of us. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm very happy Thank you, Mr. Michael, and anybody else who has been a part of this in some way or the other. You are promoting a good thought, a good cause. And these conversations are necessary, these dialogues are necessary. And if we bring thoughts of all cultures onto this one platform, where we share our common understanding of how things should be, I think the next generation is going to benefit and they'll live better lives. As an American proverb goes, Earth is something that we have not inherited from our ancestors, but we have borrowed from our children. And that is why we must leave behind a better future, better planet, better societies for our future generations. So with these words, I conclude. And I want to thank you all for this honor to share our thoughts with all of you. Is that okay?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. So thank you for ancient knowledge that's relevant for a modern world. I'm going to be traveling to our main venue here in Crestone. I want to remind people that this is part of the 7-day eco-spiritual summit called Earthstock, where we're inviting and inspiring people to take stock in their self, their own realization in humanity and the planet. I'd like to mention, although we don't have the direct benefit of having you with us in Colorado, that your essence and your knowledge and your teachings are already profoundly felt. I was wondering if just for a few minutes, I know that you were connected with Sai Baba, and I also wanted to just have people understand of how this traditional knowledge and spiritual awareness is being manifest in the many projects that you're doing. I know that maybe even the asking of this, not as a way to promote yourself or to brag, because I sense and understand your work and your devotion and all the various aspects of bhakti and service and Nanya yoga, all these yogas of union and realization coming together. But could you share with our viewers just how this energy has manifested in the world as we see it and touch it and understand? Because a lot of people sometimes think here in America, spirituality is like a magic fairy dust or magic words or just having a crystal or something that's attached to a physical and material thing. But in your work, that this manifestation of the spiritual essence really is changing the world. Would you possibly be able to share?
Sure. We are all disciples of Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba, a very, very renowned spiritualist and guru who kind of passed on in 2011. And I've been his student when I've studied at his university. And after that, he has guided me from the realms beyond the physical. And his visions and his appearances to me has taken the shape of the present mission that we are a part of, and we call it as a global humanitarian mission, in which we have three major verticals of social service, mainly nutrition, where we serve 10 million school-going children in India and 5 other countries, morning nutrition as cooked meals or as nutritional supplements, which helps them get the energy that they need every morning to start their day. And breakfast being the most important meal of the day, it also solves the problem of hunger and their overall development, also fights malnutrition in the growing children. So that's one program. The other one is in the field of education, where we have educational institutions. These are called Gurukulams in India. Gurukulams means the house of the guru, house of the teacher. So these are residential schools in rural areas where more than 5,000 boys and girls live and study. Another 5 to 6,000 boys and girls are supported by way of giving a scholarship for their needs of education. We have a university which is having 3 campuses, and also we have a school in Nigeria. We also are very honored to have a free medical education college, which is first of its kind probably in the whole world, but surely in India. And this provides children with the opportunity of becoming physicians for no charge at all. So that is including many underprivileged and marginalized children, and helping them also to become medical doctors. This apart, we also have a healthcare mission where we have hospitals, free hospitals, and we have close to around 12 free hospitals in India and in certain other countries like Fiji, Nigeria, Sri Lanka, and we have a medical center in USA in Clarksdale, Mississippi. These are all centers that provides totally free of charge consultations, medications, surgeries, end-to-end care. So these are all manifestations of that one idea of what I mentioned as one interconnected humanity, where spirituality is not a thought of certain ritualistic practices or belief in certain philosophies or ideologies, but spirituality to us is simply manifestation of that pure unconditional love as selfless service. So when children ask me, what is God to you and what is spirituality to you? I tell them, for me, God is love, and for me, spirituality is service. And in India, God is not a personal God necessarily, though we in India worship both the personal God of a certain name and form of certain attributes, which is perfectly allowed in Bhakti Marga, in the path of devotion. You can choose a particular name or form of God, and then you can worship that, and that helps you get closer to the truth. But the ultimate truth is that God is beyond forms and names and beyond attributes. Now, Upanishads call the best definition of God that you can ever get is in our Upanishads again. I have to go back to them but again and again, because they are the repositories of all the truth. And they say God is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Brahma means God. Brahma means vast, unimaginably vast. That is Brahma. So God is vast, infinite. And what is the nature of that? Satyam, truth. It always was, is, and will be. It never gets destroyed, never changes. It always remains. Second is Jnanam. It is aware. It is full of knowledge. It is not a dead force. It is alive. It is intelligent. It is aware. And third is Anantam. It is endless. So these 3 qualities, truth, knowledge, and infinity. These are the 3 qualities that God is described by. So if you go back to the basic philosophy of Indian Hindu spirituality, or Sanatana Dharma as we call, for us God is simply the essence of all existence as truth, knowledge, and eternity. In scientific term, this is not now being called as the substratum or the fundamental force, which we talk about as unified field theory, where we have various forces, the 4 kind of them, the weak nuclear, strong nuclear, gravitational, and all that. So electromagnetic. So these forces are forming the substratum on which the entire universe exists, they say. But they are unable to understand that these forces are not just dead mechanical forces. There is a sense of consciousness in them. So our Upanishads say, Prajnanam Brahma, that consciousness is divinity. So spirituality is about understanding that one consciousness that animates all existence. What we think is inanimate, like a piece of rock, is also actually alive according to our scriptures, because this consciousness exists even in that. In everything consciousness exists. So you go by science, they say the Big Bang theory, and everything appeared out of nothing. And that cannot be science. How can something appear out of nothing? That is not at all scientific. We say everything appeared out of that one consciousness. In an unmanifest form, that conscious energy was there, and that transformed itself into matter. You call it Big Bang, you call it whatever. But the truth is that energy which always existed, like energy can never be destroyed nor can be created. It only can be transformed from one form to another. Or energy transforms into matter, E is equal to mc squared, we know that. The same thing has happened. So that one consciousness which is aware, which is intelligent, which is complete in itself, that has transformed itself into all the diversity that we see. So for us, beyond the body, which is the material existence, there is this mind, which is full of thoughts, emotions, and all our memories. There are various aspects of the mind and the identity that we are such and such person with this particular body and these qualities. Beyond these two, the body and the mind, is the presence of this consciousness, which we call it Atma, or you call it as Prajnana, and there are many names to it, but ultimately they all point towards the same common existence of that undying reality, unchangeable reality of consciousness. And that is the ultimate essence. So I was trying to kind of tell about that, that unless we understand, even if we understand theoretically it is good enough, even if we don't know it by experience, still if we believe in this truth, that itself will do a lot good to the society, because we would desist from harming anyone, because we believe that is also us. Everything is us, because at the bottom of it all, we are all made of the same material, which is the consciousness. And that consciousness, one who is in touch with that consciousness, can experience his presence or her presence as that consciousness in everything. Therefore, we would not harm anyone. And that is the only way to peace and justice that we are all talking about. So that is the idea of inner spirituality, and it is Bhagavan Satya Sai Baba's grace that he, though is not physically there, but as I just mentioned, physical existence is not the truth. It's only a passing reality. The ultimate existence is consciousness. And so he still exists and guides us, and because of his continuous presence and guidance, we have embarked upon several social projects like this. Because for a hungry person, God must come as food. For somebody who is naked, God must come as clothes. For somebody who is unsheltered, God must come as a roof over the head. For somebody sick, God must come as medicine. For the uneducated, God must come as education. First, their basic necessities have to be met. Only then they can understand the greater philosophies. So we are working on one end of the spectrum with the underprivileged and marginalized, expressing our spirituality as selfless love and service to them. And on the other end, we are also teaching these great spiritual truths for those whose basic needs are met and their minds are ready to learn and assimilate the greater philosophy. So that's our work around the world. We are in 60 countries, including the USA, where this work goes on. And we look forward to working with all of you also in spreading this knowledge, this message of love and spirituality as selfless service to our fellow beings. Yeah, that's all. Unmute.
And Sadhguru, could you please explain?
I can't hear you. Can you repeat?
I mean, what is the most important thing for a common person to do to move towards this greater consciousness?
Yes. This consciousness is covered by the layers of individual identity, which comes in the form of identification with the body, with your emotions, with your memories, with your associations. Now, this individuality is what separates us from that universality of consciousness. To move towards that universality, we must let go of our individuality. And how can we do that? There are many ways. Somebody takes the path of meditation, where they merge their mind in this higher consciousness. It's a tough path because mind is not easy to control and keep in control for a long time. The other idea is that we talk about universal love, because universal love is like a universal solvent. It dissolves all the individuality, whatever, howsoever hard it might be. So when we practice universal love, we express our love in whatever we can, with kind words, with kind deeds, with kind thoughts, and unconditionally, without expectations. We again move closer towards our greater consciousness, the universal consciousness. So you can take either of the path. You can take the jnana path, which is through meditation, or you can take the path of bhakti also, which is again love for a particular form and name. But that's only the first stage. Ultimately, you have to realize that that divinity also is that universal consciousness. But in Kali Yuga, in the present times, according to me, the easiest path is to express unconditional love every day, every time. In fact, we are just born to express God through all of our activities. There is no other purpose for us to be on earth. We are here to express our divinity, which is pure unconditional love for everything and everyone. So the more we practice love, unconditional love, the more we get closer to our universal consciousness, which is our truth. Let me see.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I know we have a few minutes left. I will come back on screen because I'm traveling. Could you
Right.
share a little bit about the understanding of the yugas?
There are two ways you can think of yugas, you see. One is the mathematical way, but there is a lot of confusion over there because different interpreters of time have interpreted it differently, based on the cycle of time. In general, we all know that there are four basic yugas: the Kruta Yuga, the Treta Yuga, the Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga, and they are mainly classified as per the dominant qualities of people during those times. It is not so much to do with the position of the stars and planets and things like that. It has more to do with the dominating quality of people, the kind of lives they lived. The first one, Kruta Yuga, as we know about, is the time when most of the humans were closer to their divine nature. There were less deviations and more alignment with their divinity. The next deterioration happened. There were further deviation from their divine nature, and more of worldliness, more of individuality started creeping in. The Dwapar Yuga, it intensified. In Kali Yuga, it is the extreme peak of individuality with very little understanding of divinity. So that is the broad sense of what these yugas are meant for. But as I said, if you go by the timelines, it's really not necessary, nor it is possible to explain it scientifically, because there are different interpretations. And at the end, if you go by our philosophy, time is an illusion. That's what they say. We are all kind of dreaming. That's what they say. The Shankaracharya says that we must think of your existence in this particular world as living in a dream. So the dream, in a dream, time is very relative. You might not even be able to calculate the time, because what happens in dream time is different from what happens in the waking time. So for us, as those who believe in Vedanta, which is the Advaitic philosophy, for us time is simply an illusion, and therefore categorizing an illusion is also equally an illusion. The essence is, presently whatever you're experiencing, try to divinize that. Try to get it aligned with the universal purpose for which you are here. And that is the only way of waking up from this dream into the reality of your true self. And waking up from this dream is the whole sadhana all about. So while we can enjoy the dream, or we may be afraid in the dream, we may emote differently in the dream, ultimately is irrelevant, because at the end, it's an illusory dream, and all the situations, emotions, time are simply relative. They have no absolute existence. The absolute existence is that one consciousness that I just mentioned. Waking up from this dream, what we call as Maya, is all the sadhana about. So you can wake up by doing a lot of meditation, contemplation, certain practices. You can wake up into that ultimate reality by being closer expressions of your divinity, innate divinity, which is love and service. So one of the paths we can take, and that's how the idea of yugas disappear. Many people ask me, so is this the end of the bad times, or is good times coming? And I tell them, it depends on you, it depends on all of us. The time has nothing called bad or good quality. It is just us who make it a good time or a bad time. So the moment most of the people on the earth live a better life, more spiritual life, I'm sure the earth will look better, the times will appear to change, and Satyuga will be here. But one good thing that is happening is that I think after centuries and centuries of living a very confused and disillusioned life, so many of the people are waking up to this larger reality and seeking that higher consciousness, higher truth. And that is why I see a shift that is happening in the consciousness of the planet, because the people who inhabit this planet, their consciousness is changing. And I think these kind of summits, what you are talking about, where you people come together, discuss, deliberate, and understand, this is the way to change that consciousness. When we are more loving, more giving, the quality of time changes. So whether Satyuga is happening now or will happen after a couple of hundreds of centuries, it is really not as important as finding out whether we are changing as humans into better human beings. And that is what I insist on as a teacher. And I insist that ask yourself whether you are changing. And because of the changes that happen in you, are people around you changing? And if this change is spreading, this transformation is spreading to other people, then good times are just close by. And if you still are not doing that, then there is no end to this, because this is a nightmare then which we cannot come out of. So that is why the practice of this, what I mentioned just now, some sadhana, some love, expression of love as universal service, these are important for us to bring good times to ourselves.
I think we're having an effect already. The lights are starting to blink and the energy is moving in a very big way. I don't really want to participate in just meaningless chat. I also want to, if you would be open to sharing in your language, we appreciate this communication so many people can understand in English and hear in a place with so much samsara and maya. But would you be willing to share a blessing in your language with all the people who are joining us here today?
Oh yes, what language do you want me to talk?
How about Sanskrit?
I'm not very good at it, but I can speak to you in Hindi, which is the sister of Sanskrit, you can say, very close to Sanskrit.
Please do. We want to honor you and your tradition, and just to feel those words. And even though we might not have a specific understanding, that we can feel the energy of what's being transmitted in your language. Thank you so much.
आप सभी को भारत से नमस्कार। भारत आध्यात्म भूमि है, युगों युगों से यहाँ पर अवतार आए हैं, और अवतारों की वजह से ये भूमि आज भी आध्यात्मिकता से भरी हुई है। और ये भारत की सोच है कि इस आध्यात्मिकता को सारे विश्व के साथ बांटा जाए, क्योंकि यही एक रास्ता है जिससे कि विश्व का कल्याण हो सकता है। भारत आज भले ही कई कई क्षेत्रों में प्रगति कर रहा है, लेकिन सबसे बड़ा योगदान जो भारत विश्व को दे सकता है वो आध्यात्मिकता ही है। और आप सभी को भारत और भारतीयों की तरफ से बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। आपका जीवन शुभ हो, सफल हो, और इस आध्यात्म साधना में आप चरम सीमा तक पहुँचे, ऐसे भारत की सभी ऋषियों, मुनियों और सभी गुरुओं की तरफ से आप सभी को बहुत बहुत आशीर्वाद और बहुत सारा प्रेम। Do you want me to translate it?
Please.
I told India has much to contribute to the world, but the biggest contribution India can make to the world is its spirituality. This is the land of rishis, tapasvis, the spiritualists, the great avatars, and it's vibrant with spirituality. And this is what we can offer to the world. While we can offer many other things economically, materially, the greatest contribution we can make as Indians is to teach the spirituality to the whole world, which is the only panacea to all the problems in the world. And I wish everybody very well and all the success in their spiritual journeys from all of us in India. This is what I said.
So I want to say people are starting to show up now today. This is a good sister, Marcia, who I work with for many years. And I just want to thank you, Sadhguru, for your time, your service, the beauty, the truth, the compassion, the physical manifestation of this divine essence. Because as we know, a lot of people
are beginning to come into a new understanding based on the old understanding passing away. So as the old falls away, as the illusion falls away, and people suffer and suffer, there's no place for us to go except towards truth and beauty and the light. So it's really been, more people are gathering, and we're so blessed with your sacred and holy presence today, and your work with Sai Baba and the many rishis and avatars and great teachers throughout the world, and specifically in India, where the culture of spirituality is so important and so prevalent. We're here in America. We're in the trench trying to elevate many things and doing our best with pure hearts and pure attention. So thank you very much. And if there's anything else you'd like to say before we finish, and I will say right now, with the Earthstock Summit, we're bringing wisdom keepers from many traditions, from North, Central, South America, Mayan, Kogi, Lakota, Cheyenne, Aboriginal people from Australia, people from across Europe, and of course, India. But we acknowledge and honor India, such an ancient tradition with thousands and thousands of years of spiritual teachings that are still alive. It's not just something in a book, that this essence is alive. And, you know, I myself spent many years going through the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I could spend many lifetimes to begin to understand the knowledge and pearls of truth. But we're so honored, and here at the Earthstock Summit, we're finding part of our important role is the voice of the feminine, that sometimes the men and the patriarchal, the controlling, the hyper capitalism, those that want to kind of dominate from that perspective, is falling away, and we're falling into the grace. And part of that is the rising of what we call the divine feminine energy, or the Shakti, to help get us onto the path. And with great beings like yourself and others helping to continue to illuminate the way, we are so blessed, and we want to thank you for your time today. Any last words or blessings, anything you'd like to share in Sanskrit before we go? And again, words cannot express my gratitude. And I want to thank Sita Ma, who connected us. I met her at the Harikan Babaji Divine Mother Ashram in Crestone. And she knew when she heard about our work that your voice was important. So we're greatly honored to bring your voice to this conversation and to this devotion and to this, beyond words, to this action, to bring us into a true golden age of enlightenment. So we will just listen, and thank you so much. Words cannot express the gratitude.
Thank you so much, Michael. And yes, to Sitama also for connecting us. And she has been the bridge. I'm very happy about it. And I will close with just another 3 Sanskrit words. Uttishtata, Jagrata, Prapya Varan Nibodhata. It means arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. With these words, I would conclude. Namaste.
Thank you, Sadhguru. And thank you. I don't want to mispronounce his name, Sichitun, but I wanted to give respect and acknowledgement for him to put this doorway of opportunity to communicate with you together. And to Michael Krause, who is spending every day, all day, help to bring these voices and messages to the world. Namaste.
Namaste.